Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, let's talk about this baby right here, the Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma. So the Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma, this little baby right here, is a plant that grows extremely well indoors. This is also known supposedly as the mini monstera or the Monstera ginny. It's also known as a philodendron piccolo. Never heard of that one. This is a guinea philodendron also. This plant right here is a really super easy to grow plant. I got this particular plant from my friend Mary J from Mary J's Plants, and she sent it to me, when was it? She sent it to me over the summer. And I had issues rooting it, but I didn't know anything about this plant. This plant right here, when she sent it to me, it was probably about 6 inches. And it grew and grew. It rooted up and it just continued to grow and grow and grow. But it's weird. It went from like a big stemmy stalk like that, literally to this on the bottom. So it did something like this on the very top right here, and then this is what it was balancing on. And I ended up having to chop it down because it was so flimsy that it just wasn't even looking right. So I took the chance and I gave it a big old haircut, and it took quite a long time for me to get it to root, yet alone to see any growth on it whatsoever. I did end up putting this in my IKEA greenhouse, or in my greenhouse, with light and humidity, and it finally started taking off. As you can see, there's a growth right there. There's some growth right there. Right there. This plant is a really, once it gets going, it's a pretty easy plant. You want to place it in direct bright light. I have mine under grow lights, and it seems to be just flourishing. You want to fertilize this monthly. If it's growing, like for instance, since mine's living in my greenhouse, I could probably fertilize it. It probably wouldn't hurt. Since there is new growth coming on there. But normally fertilize it during the growing season. So if it stopped growing for you, I wouldn't fertilize it. And you fertilize it monthly with a balanced fertilizer. And the best temperature range for these guys, look at that leaf. The best temperature range is between 68 and 80 degrees. And then you only water the plant when the top inch to maybe 2 inches is completely dry. They do like to have some moist soil, not wet, not soggy, but some moist soil. So as long as the first inch, maybe 2 inches tops, is dry, I would go ahead and give it a water. The cool thing about these Rhaphidophora tetraspermas is they're easy to care for indoors. They do have such compact growth, and I'll show you my other one right here in a moment. They have such compact growth, and they don't grow as big as the other monsteras do. It is a part of the aroid family. It does like, if you gave it a moss pole, it will like to climb. As you can see right there, that right there is an aerial root. It's kicking out a lot of aerial roots since it's been thriving in some humidity. But if you put a nice pole in with it, it would just go ahead and start climbing the pole. So if you've wanted a monstera, but you just don't have the space for it, and if you can find one of these guys, they're starting to become more and more. So if you don't have that much space, and if you don't have that much space for a monstera, but you still kind of like the look of it, if you can find one of these, pick these guys up. They're fun to grow. They're fun to watch. I know I've been having a good time with it. They are actually very, very easy to propagate. As long as you do make sure it's got humidity, make sure it's got the adequate light. But what you would do is just like any other aeroid. See right there? That right there is a node. And so there's a node right there too. So if I cut right by that node, and if I put it in moss, it's going to actually start growing another plant for you. See this baby right there? That's growing out of a node. So as long as you give it a nice humid, warm, bright spot. So similar to the philodendrons and monsteras, this does need bright light, but keep it away from direct bright sunlight because the leaves are so thin that they will go ahead and burn really easily. Dappled and filtered sunlight is excellent for this plant. So put your plant in, if you're in the northern hemisphere, put it in an eastern facing room where it gets morning sunlight and then shade for the rest of the day. And just make sure that as long as your light is adequate, not too hot, not too little, this plant's going to thrive for you. This is also known, and people do grow this in lower lit conditions. However, the foliage will suffer if it's kept in the shade for too long. The leaves on the mini, we'll call it the mini monstera, the leaves on the Tetrasperma, they just will get to a point where they won't split. So they do need adequate light in order to grow the splits. So that could be a sign of too little light. So just move it to a little bit more light, little bit lighter location. And then also, if you're growing it in a dimmer location, the conditions will slow the plant growth. So if it's in the right conditions, it's going to grow quick, but it's a slow grower, and you might not have the slits in it if it's in the lower light. Watering. So for watering, I always use my moisture meter on all of my plants, but if you don't have a moisture meter, just make sure that the top of the soil and maybe 1 inch to 2 inches that's pushing it, but the top inch of soil is dry, and then water it. They do like to be moist, but they do not like to be soggy because it could cause root rot. How I water mine is, right now it's just in a cover pot, but make sure you pot it in a pot with well-draining soil as well as drainage holes in it. How I do it is I water it completely through 3 times. I just drench it. And once it's stopped dripping, then I would put it right back in its planter and put it back where I found it. Also, make sure that if you do put it in a cover pot, or if you have it on a saucer, make sure that there is never any sitting water in it, because that's one surefire way that this plant will get root rot really quick. If you see yellow leaves happening on it, that's a possibility of too much water. So cut back on that water, let it dry out just a little bit more before you water it again next time. Now this plant seems to thrive according to what I've read, this plant seems to thrive in plastic, more so terracotta, because the roots do like to stay a little bit more moist. However, what I'm going to do for this guy, I'm going to repot this guy right here, but he's living in a terracotta pot in a plastic pot right now, but I think as long as I keep an eye on my watering with it, he will be fine in a terracotta pot. And so this time I'm going to plant it in there. And if it doesn't work, then down the road, I'll just put him in plastic. As far as soil goes, you want to make sure that you have a well-draining soil, but it does stay moist enough for the roots to get everything that they need from the plant. The best kind of potting mix for this is like a peat-based or a soil that's mixed with, perlite, which is what I've got that I'm going to plant this baby in. I just mix it with perlite and potting mix. I do a 50-50 mix. This plant right here is the perfect humidity for the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma is between 30 and 40% household humidity. And that is kind of too low. So if you can put it next to a humidifier or even a pebble tray, put this plant near a pebble tray, or you can even put some glasses of water around. Anything to up the humidity a little bit, the plant's going to love you for it. Another thing you could do is group the plants together, because plants actually give off humidity. And so if you group a bunch of them together, they're going to actually help each other out. They'll kind of create their own little bubble. So put some plants together. Experiment a little bit. Okay, so let's repot this guy right here. I recently got this guy for a Christmas gift. And as you can tell, look at all of the roots. The roots are starting to come out of the top of the pot, as well as starting to come out of the bottom. So it is time for this baby to have a repot. Let's see. So first of all, just make sure you squeeze it. I'm going to turn you down here. Come on. There we go. It's starting to come. Oh, yes. Yes, this definitely needs a repotting. Look at that, you guys. Totally loving life, though. And look at all of these aerial roots. I don't know if I can get you, but there. See all those aerial roots? Crazy. Okay, so I'm not going to mess with this too much. I'm just going to loosen it up a little bit. This was in a 6-inch pot, and I am going to put it in an 8-inch terracotta. I'm going to loosen these roots up just a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. Just like that. Okay. So then I'm going to bring my terracotta. Now I know this plant normally really likes to have plastic, but I am going to see how it does in a terracotta. I'm thinking if it's anything like the monsteras, and they seem to be doing okay. I know it's not the same species, but as long as it's about the same type of care, and my monsteras are thriving right now, I figure why not try a terracotta pot? Okay, so what I did was I put some soil in the pot, bottom of the pot, and I put this baby in here, and I'm just going to fill her up. Now, as you can see, the way it's growing right here. See how it's growing up this way? In the future, I am going to put a moss pole or a stick so it will grow up. I just like the look. I mean, you could let it go wild if you wanted to, but I really like the look of them when they are growing up something. And I'm assuming that if you do that, I'm assuming that the leaves will grow a little bit bigger as well. Trying to make sure I get the air pockets out of here. Yeah, this plant was a Christmas gift for me this year. And it's funny because I've wanted one of these for a while. But the prices have been so ungodly crazy. You know, houseplant, COVID issues. And every time I saw one, it was a minimum of like $80, $60 to $80. And I'm sorry, but I'm on a budget, first of all, and there's no way I can afford that. So I'm very thankful that I was given this one for Christmas. So there you guys have it. Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. And right here, if I wanted to, I can cut this right here and I could propagate it. I could cut it right here and I could propagate it, put it in sphagnum moss. I'm sure you could put it in water, but I haven't had good luck with putting anything in water to get them to root. But yeah, and that's it. Now all I need to do down the road is get a moss pole, and I'm going to put some systemic on it. I do that with all my houseplants. It helps prevent bug issues. It is a poison, so just remember that. Also, speaking of poison, this plant is toxic to pets, to humans, animals, so don't consume it or don't let them consume it. But yeah, that is all I have today about the Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this type of videos, please like, and I'd love it if you could hit the subscribe button to be part of my Planty community. Every little bit helps. The more, every little bit helps. I'm thinking about doing a few different like crafty things on here too on this channel, so if you'd like that, please let me know in the comments below if you would be interested in that, or if I should just stick to plants. So I hope you guys have a great day. Keep smiling. Look at the shirt here. Humankind, be both. Just be kind, people. That's all. It's easier to be a jerk than it is to be kind. So I hope you guys have a great day. Keep smiling, and I will see you next time. Bye.